Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel, and today we're going to be talking about specifically what it means to have your Mercury in Libra or Mercury in the 7th house. My name is Brandon. I do astrology videos here on YouTube, and this is part of a much larger series that I'm working on where I go through every single planet in every single house. So I've done everything prior to Libra in the 7th house. So if you have any planets in between Aries and Virgo, or the 1st and the 6th house, there's a playlist down below you can check out where I will be talking about any and all of those placements. So if you have the Sun, Moon, Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, or Saturn in anything prior to Libra or prior to the 7th house, there's a video down in that playlist for you. Now, if you're looking at this and you're like, what is he talking about? What are all these things? It's astrology. There's a lot of stuff to this, and there is going to be some information down below that you can kind of generate your birth charts. You can decide if you want to do that, and you can see if you have, your planets in certain houses and in certain signs, things like that. So feel free to check that out as well down below. And I'm going to be talking a little bit about a couple of different things here. So I'm going to put the timestamps down below for when I talk about what. So if you have your Mercury in Libra, but not in the 7th house or vice versa, you can check those things out down below there. I will be kind of talking about kind of mixing the two throughout the course of the video. So if you do have Mercury in Libra, I would recommend kind of watching through the entirety of it, just because there are some things that I kind of reference back to as we kind of continue on this, because there is definitely some overlap between these two energies, and there's a lot of different things that we can definitely talk about here. So without further ado, let's just kind of dive right into it, and let's speak specifically about what Mercury means within a natal chart. Okay, so Mercury within a natal chart. So Mercury has its own sort of fluidity that it kind of brings to every single placement that it's in. So Mercury really is flavored by every single planet and sign that it's kind of coinciding within. And Mercury rules all things relative to our communication style, our intellect, our opinion, our voice, how we speak, how we understand the world, how we process information, how we understand our memories, how we put words to our memories. And Mercury, dependent upon its sign and placement and aspects and so many different things, shows us where our mind kind of goes, as well as what we focus on in a mental sense, what we really kind of focus our attention on, where we bring a lot of our thoughts and opinions towards. We kind of have this kind of speaking style that really brings a part of our Mercury placement. And depending upon Mercury's sign and house placement, it's going to show what we really like to talk about, where we really like to speak on things, what we really like to kind of communicate towards, and what our goals are, right? And Mercury has a lot of like I said, it has a lot of fluidity and kind of adaptability. So it does really want to kind of be in, obviously, more adaptable signs. It rules Gemini and it rules Virgo, and it is considered to be in detriment on the signs opposite of that, so in Sagittarius and Pisces, because Mercury and Jupiter are considered to be oppositional, where Mercury is kind of the more subjective reality, whereas Jupiter is more of the objective reality, where Mercury really wants to understand the finer details and the finer ways of tuning things, understanding things, and creating things and speaking about things. And Jupiter is all about the bigger things and the larger than life perspectives, and can kind of get a little bit messy because it is so optimistic and large. And so Mercury is all about the details, Jupiter's all about the big picture, and so they can kind of have a little bit of be at odds, right? And that's where we see the more logical brain, the more creative brain, that sort of kind of conversation being had here with Mercury and Jupiter. A lot about philosophy, a lot about religion, and then as well as a lot about, as it relates to Mercury, our like own opinions, our own voice, our own truth, right? Versus the bigger truth that is out there. So that's where Mercury and Jupiter kind of clash, which is why there's a little bit of a difficulty when Mercury's in a Jupiter sign, which we're not going to be talking about really in its sense today. I just kind of wanted to get into that. And so, yeah, so Mercury really does kind of function pretty much most in a most polarized sense in those Mercurial and Jupiter ruled signs. We're going to kind of talk about a bunch of them in a little bit, but it's important to know what your Mercury ruler is doing as well. So for the example of this video, if you're a Mercury in Libra, look to your Venus placement. That's going to definitely help you. But also look to the ruler of your Mercury. So if your Mercury is ruled by the moon, look to your moon. If your Mercury is ruled by the sun, look to your sun, obviously. There's a lot of different combinations that can kind of be had there. And it's really important to look at your Mercury placement to see how your opinions are, what you think about, what you focus on, as well as your aspects, which we're not going to go into really too much today, just for sake of time. But there is a lot of different combinations of aspects that can kind of be played out within this, of how the mind is being asked to kind of, center itself, focus itself, things like that. So without further ado, let's talk about what Mercury means in Libra. All right, so we have Mercury in the sign of Libra. So Mercury in Libra is going to kind of take on those communicative roles of Libra, which obviously I'm sure you can imagine is going to be really, really social, really understanding, really much focused upon the other person, focused upon understanding how to communicate with them, how to connect with them. Very, very social, extroverted, partner focused. Really, one of the better placements of Mercury, in my opinion, although yes, Mercury does really well in Virgo, the sign right before this. Mercury in Libra, I think, has a really nice kind of way of speaking about things because it is a Venusian sign and it is a sign related to the other. Now, as I kind of talked about with the Mars in Libra video, which is something that I've kind of been seeing throughout this Libra series here, is a lot of these Libra placements, a lot of what they really struggle with is the understanding of the other person versus themselves, meaning that they will prioritize the other person. They'll prioritize their partner. They'll prioritize their audience, whoever they're talking to. They really focus on the person sitting across from them, but they're not necessarily focused upon their role all the time. Now, with Mercury here, there is going to be quite a lot of different sorts of positive conversations that are had, but a lot of Mercury Libra people will have this kind of struggle with being able to see their own voice, because Libra is so influenced by the other and the person that's once again across from them, their client, whoever they're talking to, that they might not find their own voice. So Mercury in Libra, Mercury in kind of any air sign, even in Gemini, can kind of struggle to find its own voice after some time because it is so bombarded with information, because Mercury in an air sign is going to be so kind of in its head and so kind of mentally up here, and they're going to be getting a lot of information, a lot of input, a lot of kind of conversations, and it's about how they filter that out. And with Libra, it's about filtering out through another person, and sometimes when you do that, you lose your own kind of essence, your own like approach, your own perspective, because you're trying to understand you through the realm of someone else. You're trying to understand what you know about the world, what you know about yourself, how you understand the world, how you see the world, but you're looking at it through the realm of someone else's voice and someone else's opinion, which is where Mercury and Libra can struggle. And any Libra placement can struggle in that manner, because it's really trying to find this sort of like this voice for itself in another person, in a partnership, in harmony with someone, which is great, right? It does ultimately create a lot of really great communicative stuff relative to partnerships. They're really strong in communicating with their partner, and making sure that they are understood. That's what I think. One of the things I think that's really powerful with Mercury and Libra in specific, over other Libra placements, is they really prioritize being understood by their partner and making sure they understand. So this is where the active listening and active kind of speaking kind of comes in here, where they really are really trying to learn from their partner, learn from whomever they're talking to, their clients, whatever it may be. They're really trying to have a conversation, and really understand the other person. And active listening is very rare nowadays, but it is something that I think Mercury and Libra kind of prioritize in a way that others don't. And it can be very taxing, because the mind we are in such a self-focused society that it's very difficult sometimes to actively listen to somebody, because people think that that is not energetically, exhausting, but it can be, because you are actively really trying to understand that person, and you're not just waiting to talk. You're actually really taking in what they're saying, and then you're responding based off of their information, and you're kind of putting their voice first. And so with Mercury and Libra, we can see that there's this kind of like desire for you to talk to someone, to understand someone, to have a conversation with someone, and that person then helps you figure out what you want, where you want to go, how you want to do things. And that, like I said, there's a lot of soundboarding as well with this, where they're going to kind of talk things out with another person. But ultimately, it's a really peaceful and negotiation kind of energy. Mercury and Libra in general is all about negotiations and kind of contracts and doing those things. But Mercury and Libra really wants to, it's focused upon that. It's focused upon harmony, which is one of the really great things about Mercury in a Venusian sign. Mercury in Taurus is a little bit different. Because Taurus is more about the individual values, what you hold, what you have, what you own, how you make your money, those sorts of things. But when it comes to Libra, it's all about the other person. It's all about who you're working with. It's all about this client. It's all about those relationships. And that's the thing with Libra placements. Someone who has them, it is really, really great to be so aware of someone else and someone else's desires and their needs and their wants and their thoughts. And it allows you to really connect with a lot of people and help those people understand themselves and be heard. That's something I think Mercury and Libra has a really great job at, like I said earlier, with active listening. But they really help people be heard and be seen. Sun Libra is more of the seen part, right? The visibility of the sun. But Mercury and Libra still has this. It has this quality of kind of, really bringing out someone's voice, bringing out someone's opinion, bringing out someone's story, right? This is where someone is really going to sit there and be like, tell me what you went through. Talk to me. Let me know what's going on, right? They want to hear. They want to take someone's voice. Now, Mercury and Libra, if we have a difficult Venus placement, like I said earlier, it's important to look at your Venus placement here. If you have a Venus that is, difficultly placed, let's say a Venus in Scorpio, or if you have, Venus in an aspect to Saturn or Mercury in an aspect to Saturn, this can make, for someone who gets a lot of people's opinions and thoughts and things, and then kind of just withholds that information, both for benefit of themselves and benefit of the other, depending upon that person's morals, right? Because that's the thing with Libra. It is a Venusian sign, so the thing about this, it's really important to know what your morals are, where you're standing on, what you really care about in a person, right? And so Mercury and Libra really cares about having an intellectual conversation, but the information that are being brought from that person, they have to be able to find the value in that, find the value in that conversation, find the value in that person, have the kind of more solid understanding of what that person's information is giving to you, right? They're teaching you something, they're having this conversation, and you're kind of like, okay, what can they teach me? What can I learn from them? What can I kind of hear that they're saying? How are they able to help me, right? Mercury and Libra is all about learning someone else's perspective, someone else's point of view, and it's really, really great at doing that. And it is great as, once again, as creating harmony, creating some sort of peace with that. But it is important to look at your Venus sign, because that does show what you value, how you want to relate to people. If you have Mercury and Libra with Venus and Libra, that's just going to be, phenomenal in a lot of ways. That's going to be like the schmoozer, the one that really is flirting and able to help people. That's another thing with Mercury Libra. They're very, very, very flirtatious. Libra placements have that. It's very interesting that I haven't really mentioned that, I think, as much in this series as I would have thought, because Libra is a very flirtatious sign. It's a Venus ruled sign. It's the Venus ruled sign relative to other people and social things. And so this can be a very artistic and social person, but it can also be a very charming person. Mercury and Libra is very, very charming. They know, like every Libra placement, they kind of know what the other person wants and how the other person looks, right? And that's why certain planets in Libra do really well. Obviously, Venus rules it, so it does really well here. But Mercury really wants to kind of learn how to do Venusian things. It wants to learn how to communicate in a kind of pleasant manner, and it's going to do that. It's going to do that. Even if Venus is, debilitated in Virgo, or, struggling in Scorpio, right? Venus is fallen in Virgo, my correction there. But my point is Venus has a lot of say in what this person is really, really kind of going through, and what they're really wanting to put stock in a conversation, right? If we have Mercury and Libra, but Venus is in Scorpio, there's going to be a really, really strong sort of intense conversation. They're going to want, this is where you'll see therapists for sure. But then if we have Mercury in Libra and Venus in Virgo, that's mutual reception, which is really helpful to those two energies because they'll kind of lend to one another in a lot of ways. And that's where Mercury and Venus will be very strong, despite being in placements of the other, right? So they'll do quite well with that particular thing there. And then Mercury in Libra with Venus in Leo or Venus in Sag. There's going to be some interesting stuff here because this is going to actually support it because there's going to be another fire sign. It's really that more so the Mercury in Libra with Venus and Scorpio. That's a little bit more of a difficulty because of that, you know, difficult Venus placement there. We'll talk about the Venus and Scorpio later. This is not a Venus and Scorpio video. This is just a Mercury and Libra video, but Mercury and Libra wants to kind of talk about all the different relational ways that this can happen. And Mercury and Libra can also, it has very much this artistic, it's very much, honestly, like the image I get in my mind, and this is also Mercury 7th house too, is, I think it's called an officiant, whomever like actually like goes through and speaks the marriage, you know, kind of contractual thing. That is very Mercury Libra. It's also Jupiter Libra too. It's a lot of Libra stuff is that, but Mercury Libra, and this like especially is that, or someone who does contract writing, or someone who does, you know, legal kind of document writing is very common for Mercury and Libra, where they have this kind of like prominent desire to find harmony and make contracts and make people work together. It's really great. Mercury and Libra is awesome. And like I said, it's important to look at the ruler, which is Venus, as well as the aspects to Mercury and see what else is going on, as well as the house, obviously. So that's really my Mercury and Libra portion here. If you guys have Mercury and Libra, I'd love to hear about it and how it's been for you. Feel free to put some information down below about how that was, how your relationships were, because Mercury and Libra definitely has some interesting relational things going on. And then, yeah, and then of course, if you have any other things within prior to Libra the 7th house, that playlist is down below. And if you're interested in how like I kind of read and talk and stuff, all that stuff's down below too. So if you're interested in that, go ahead and click down there because I love what I do. I love talking about this. I love being able to help people with this. And this is a large series I've been working on, and I am very grateful to be able to do this and be able to share my information. And so if even if this helps one person, that's all I care about at the end of the day. So without further ado, let's move into what Mercury means in the 7th house. Okay, so we have Mercury in the 7th house. So Mercury in the 7th house is going to play a lot of different roles, but all of them are really related to specifically communicating about partnerships, communicating in a connection with somebody, having a conversation with someone, and creating some sense of harmony. The 7th house rules our business partnerships. It rules the public. It rules any sort of client relationship that we may have, any sort of actual romantic relationship, any sort of contractual obligation, business partner, all those sorts of things are ruled in this 7th house. This is the house of the other, anyone that is outside of you that you are talking to. So this makes for a great salesman, salesperson, someone who is really working on closing a deal. That's something I think is really positive about Mercury in the 7th house, is this gift that it has to learn how to communicate with another person and help them see the value in them, which is really a really strong gift in salespeople. But it's also something that allows for the connection to kind of go really well, right? Whenever we have 7th house planets, there is a lot of focus around the other person and the value that person can bring you, and really building that up. And that's something we see a lot with 7th house Libra placements, is a focus upon whomever they're talking to, whomever they're with. And that's why these people are so social and so you know, just positive people to be around, because they're so focused upon other people. Granted, Mars and Saturn can be a little bit different in that regard, and obviously different planets connecting the 7th house can also kind of like flavor this. Not everyone is going to be, you know, all sunshine and rainbows with 7th house planets or Libra placements, because it's all really about the other layers within this, right? And one of those being, you know, what in this particular example, what Mercury is, you know, placed in that house. So if it's Mercury in a fire sign, it's going to act differently than Mercury in an earth sign, stuff like that. And it's important for overall for Mercury in the 7th to really understand how to communicate with whomever they're talking to, and their ability to connect with someone is going to be very important to understand. I think it's really interesting about this that I kind of want to talk about before we go a little bit further. A couple things. One, if you have Mercury in the 7th house, your sun is either in the 6th, 7th, or 8th house. And so there is this natural kind of inclination when your sun's on that side of the chart to be really connected to another person, to what that person brings, to really kind of seeing yourself as that person. You were born around sunset, and so there is going to be a lot of sort of stories around other people and a lot of focus around you connecting to other people just inherently by having your sun around that area of the chart. A lot about learning how to connect with someone, how to be with someone, those sorts of things. So when you have Mercury here, the sun's automatically going to be kind of following along, or the Mercury's going to be following the sun. So there is just kind of conversations around that need to be had, around trying to fit yourself into something, trying to fit yourself with a person, as well as really learning how to connect really deeply to someone and intimately, which is where we get into the 8th house, which we'll do next season. But the other thing I wanted to bring up as well is if you are a Gemini or Virgo rising, this is going to have a lot more importance to you if you have your Mercury in the 7th house. The reason for that is because you are ruled by it, right? So if you are a Gemini rising and you have your Mercury in Sagittarius in the 7th house, that is going to put a lot more emphasis than usual upon you connecting with somebody and really having a really strong partnership. And this is where, and I said this with the Mars in the 7th house video as well, this is where you'll see, with most specifically with Gemini and Virgo risings with Mercury in that 7th, this is where you'll see a lot of like annoyance with the other person not understanding you, and you not feeling like you can get your point across, and you not feeling heard, and you not, kind of like you're getting lost in their communication so much that you're not being able to communicate your own, right? That's something that we can tend to see with a more difficult placement. But more specifically in this example, anytime we see the 1st house ruler in the 7th house, it will always be in a detrimented or fallen kind of position. So it's not really going to function that well anyway. And it's the same thing on the inverse. If we have any planets in the 1st house from the 7th, they're going to kind of always kind of be this kind of back and forth. Any time you see the 2nd house in the 8th, or the 3rd house in the 9th, or the 4th house in the 10th, or anywhere around any of those combinations, and they're kind of flipped, every time that happens, it's going to be a planet that is, not comfortable where it's at. And so the reason why it's important in this particular example is because Mercury for Gemini and Gemini and Virgo risings is you. It rules you. It rules where you go, and you are going to other people, and you're getting confused by them. You're getting confused by what they're saying, how they're talking about things, all those sorts of things there. And so there's a lot of different conversations that need to be had. You need to figure out your truth by getting lost in all the confusion of someone else. And that's something that I can tend to see a lot with the 1st and the 7th, just as an overall. But with Mercury in specific, because of the fact that Mercury is, not really comfortable in the sign of Jupiter or in Pisces, it really struggles with this kind of trying to find the truth of who they are and their partner. They can get lost in that so many different times over and over. So important for that note. If you have Gemini or Virgo rising, I would love to hear your story about how that has been for you if you have Mercury in the 7th house. In addition to that, obviously the aspects and the other planets that are in the 7th house are obviously going to flavor this. I already kind of mentioned about the sun being close to there as well. So that is pretty common to have the sun really close to Mercury. So it's going to be either 6th, 7th, or 8th. So there is some conversations to be had around those things. So if you have your sun in the 6th house, make sure to check out that video. Now, moving on from that, Mercury in the 7th has a bunch of different ways that it can kind of play out, right? Mercury is going to play very differently depending upon the sign it's in. I kind of already mentioned that earlier in the very beginning of this video, but Mercury really wants to find a way to communicate its truth and talk about its opinions. And if it's in a fire sign, for example, like Aries, Leo, or Sagittarius, it's going to have a lot more of a bite to it. It's going to want to communicate more aggressively, more powerfully, more inspirationally, and it's going to want to really tell a story. It's going to want to light that person up, right? This is where Mercury and fire, and more so Mercury and Mars, you're going to see, this is where you'll see a lot more motivation given to their partner, a lot more of that fiery action with their partner. You could see a lot more arguments with Mercury and a fire sign in general. Mercury and Mars tends to do that a little bit more. So Mercury and Aries, Mercury and Scorpio can do that a little bit more than Mercury and fire. But there is going to be this kind of like fight for life, or kind of bringing life to a conversation, life to a person. There is this kind of creative coaching and kind of like inspirational, kind of lighting someone up, inspiring them, helping them through something, kind of like really, or even finding a partner that helps them do that, right? That's something that we can see here when we put fire in the 7th house. Because if you have fire in the 7th house, you are going to be a air rising, which means that you're going to be looking for information, looking for people, looking for social connections. And if Mercury in specific, which is a very social, mental planet, is put in the 7th house in a fire sign, it's going to really try and find those people that kind of get you out of your rut. So if you have Mercury and fire in the 7th house there, even if it is in Sagittarius, actually I think even more so if it is in Sagittarius, try and find people that can motivate you, even if it's going and watching a video and watching a video of someone that is helping you feel like you're doing something and you're learning something and you're moving forward in life, and you're talking to someone and they're kind of pushing you forward. That's a really great gift. Mercury can also do the inverse of that, where you are the person motivating, but you have to kind of get your mind right and your mindset right in that regard. It's really positive and really powerful. We have Mercury and fire there. Mercury in an earth sign here. So we have Taurus, Capricorn, and Virgo. This is a little bit more on the obviously grounded side, the more kind of calmer side here. This is where you will find a partner that is more in the kind of calming sense. They have kind of everything together. And you're going to want to kind of keep when you have Mercury and Earth, you're going to want to kind of keep your relationships and your communication style within relationships very slow and simple, and very kind of straight to the point. Kind of not really going around in circles, not really kind of trying to have a bunch of different conversations and talk about this and talk about that, and just kind of be very just blunt. That's what I can tend to see with Mercury in Earth there in the 7th house. But they can also get a lot of financial success from their partner, a lot of kind of stability from their partner in a lot of ways, because all the Earth signs are relative to all things financial, physical, and career-based. They're all those houses that are related to our physical, tangible wealth, and what we do to get that, and kind of the fruits of our labor. And so Mercury is all about really trying to find communication and conversation around how I can get my partner to that point, or how we can work together in a partnership to really help each other get further in life. This is where you'll really see, especially Mercury and Capricorn. This is where you'll see lawyers. Mercury and Capricorn. Saturn in Libra, of course, has a lot more emphasis on this too. But if like you saw like Mercury in Capricorn, even with like Jupiter there, Mercury, Jupiter, and Capricorn, that is like law or corporate law in specific, and like corporations and corporate connections and contracts and stuff. That's a huge thing there. Yeah, there's a lot of different combinations with that. Like I said, there's so many layers, and I can kind of go in so many different directions with this, because I do not have Mercury in air sign. I have Mercury in a fire sign, so it's kind of all over the place, and it's kind of sporadic and all these different focuses and things. And Mercury in Earth really does want to have a grounded partner, someone that brings them down to earth, someone that has everything put together. Because like I was saying earlier, with Mercury in fire for those air risings, you're going to have water risings. You're going to be really sensitive. You have a lot of different things that you're trying to learn, right? If you are, a Cancer rising with Mercury in Capricorn, or a Scorpio rising with Mercury in Taurus, or a Pisces rising with Mercury in Virgo, there's going to be all these different sorts of sensitivities that you're going to have, that you're moving, where you're feeling very energetically attacked in some way, or overwhelmed by your environment and what you're doing, that you need someone to ground that. You need someone to slow down with you and be there with you and kind of be that voice of reason and be that kind of eye within the storm. That's a lot of what like water risings really need. I don't typically go in this direction with this. For those of you that have watched other ones of my video, I typically go through like each planet. But for some reason, this is kind of how we're going through it this time. I've done this a couple times here, but I like this a little bit better for some of them, and this is kind of how it just kind of fell. So this is where we're going, just because it's a little bit simpler to understand as well. And it does really make it kind of phrases it differently, right? There's so many different ways to kind of talk about astrology, and I think talking about it in regards to elements kind of makes it really simple there. And then now we have Mercury in air sign here. So this is Mercury in Gemini, Libra, or Aquarius. So this one has more of a natural socialite sort of energy, obviously. where it's really trying to really have a lot of conversations, learn a lot of different things. Mercury does really well in air. It does really, really well in air. And so it really is all about finding the right people to talk to, finding the right, input of information, finding the right kind of conversationalists. It's really powerful here because they're really looking for the next person to kind of give them the information that can really help them go after their goals and go after what they want, and kind of do that fire rising sign thing, right? Where they really want to go after whatever it may be that they're wanting to do, and they're trying to find the right person to talk to help them with their goals, with who they want to be, with who they want to see themselves as. There's all those different conversations that Mercury in the 7th can kind of do here. And once again, these are all going to be different kinds of people that are writing for a lot of different things. Their mind is focused upon helping people with their information. This is like Mercury and Gemini in the 7th, great writer. Mercury and Libra in the 7th, great lawyer, as well as Capricorn in the 7th, like I said. Mercury and Aquarius 7th, grant writer, or someone who does a lot of social work as well. You can see that a lot with Aquarius 7th house. I think that's just Aquarius 7th house thing in general, is social work. But Mercury here can definitely bring the mind towards advancement of society. We haven't talked about Mercury and Aquarius yet, but we'll get there. But yeah, there's a lot of stuff here with Mercury in an air element here. There is this a lot more of a active sort of communication, a lot of like looking and searching and kind of finding the right person to kind of help you through a problem. And really sifting through all your different options and your Rolodex, people on your phone, and kind of picking up your phone and saying, okay, who can I call for this thing? Who can I call if I want to talk about this thing? Like, that's a lot of what we see with Mercury and air here. It's really good. It's a really good one. I really like this one. And then Mercury in water here in the 7th. This is going to be obviously the opposite of Mercury and earth in the 7th, because Mercury in water, Cancer, Scorpio, and Pisces. This is obviously, and I've said this a lot about the water signs, but this is very intuitive. This is very much the psychics, the healers, the mediums, the ones that are counseling people, helping them through their feelings. That's a lot of what we see here with Mercury in a water sign. And it definitely has more of a, it's obviously the opposite of Mercury and Earth in the 7th, because this is where we'll see that this person will have an Earth rising but a water descendant, which will pretty much be this kind of like, you have it all put together. People come to you for stability, and they're just like a bubbling, like, emotional mess, and you're trying to work with their emotions and work with their insecurities and their depth and their darkness and their trauma and their confusion, right? Mercury and Pisces is going to be a lot more on the like I said earlier with the Virgo rising, it's going to have a lot more of a kind of getting lost in their person, in their conversations, and they can find a lot of inspiration from whomever they're talking to, which is really, really powerful and potent in that regard. Mercury and Scorpio is going to have a lot of lessons around in this particular one, and I will definitely talk about this with Mercury and Scorpio, because there's so much I have to say about Mercury and Scorpio, and every Scorpio placement for that matter. But Mercury in Scorpio in the 7th, this is going to have a lot of gaslighting. It's Mercury Scorpio in general has that, but in the 7th, it is really about finding people to trust. And I think this is where you'll find that they're going to be looking for answers so deeply in other people. They get lost in other people. Mercury in water in the 7th just gets lost in the person's conversation and their kind of like demeanor and their energy and their shifts and their vibe, and they're kind of exploring their energy in a lot of ways, which is why we see so many intuitives and so many healers and so many psychics with Mercury and water, just in general. But in the 7th house, it kind of focuses upon really bringing out those different emotional qualities, whether it's the family lineage, or whether it's their trauma and empowering them, or whether it's just their spiritual guides and their sort of energetic kind of exchange that happens with Pisces, which is so beautiful. It's all about creating healing. Mercury really wants to get lost in that with somebody and then come back out of it and say, look at what we went through, look at what we survived, look at what you survived. And kind of understands more of themselves in that process. That's all what Mercury wants in the 7th, is to understand more of itself, understand how it can navigate the world through seeing how other people have done the same. And so that's where, like I said, you'll see a lot of counselors with this, a lot of lawyers, a lot of people that are looking for how other people have gotten to their situation or gotten through their situation, and work to create laws or create sort of connections or contracts that can really help further that person they're talking to as well as themselves, and allow their voice to be heard. Because Mercury in the 7th, you are going to be heard. You are going to want to talk to people. People are going to want to listen to you, and you are going to want to listen to other people. And so that's where this listening and talking balance is really what comes in here with Mercury in the 7th house. Is about learning how to balance those two sides of you that want to speak about your own opinion, but then also listen to someone else's, because Mercury in the 7th is going to really pressure you to listen to other people and listen to what they have to say, so that you can take something that they're saying and really say, okay, how does this fit into my paradigm? How does this fit into my perspective? What can I lend to them that can help them? This is what I'm hearing about whatever this person's saying, and kind of just regurgitate that information. It's really, really powerful, really, really potent, and I really love this placement for a lot of different reasons, because it is one of the better, more socially focused. Obviously, Mercury in the 7th can have a lot of different connections, as we talked about here, and that's why it's important to see what Mercury's sign is in your 7th house, and obviously the ruler of that, and kind of other aspects of that, and the planets that are in there. So many different layers to this, because this is just solely Mercury in the 7th house without any other sort of planet aspect, conversation, anything like that. But it's important to look at your rulers. That's kind of the next logical step in that regard. And yeah, I just really hope this video helped any of you that may have Mercury in Libra, Mercury in the 7th house. This is what I love to do. I love talking about this stuff. This is one of my favorite things to kind of just chat about and give my knowledge to the world, honestly. So I appreciate you so much for sitting through however much of this you may have sat through. And obviously, since this is YouTube, if you want to like, comment, share, subscribe, all those things, it helps me out, because this is what I do for a living, and I enjoy every minute of it. And if you are interested in anything with me, if you like how I talk, there is resources down below to kind of check out more about me and kind of connect with me as well. So like I said, I appreciate you, and I really hope this video helped even one person. And if you have your Mercury in Libra, Mercury in the 7th house, please put some information down below about how that experience was for you. Thank you so much for being here with me today. And I'll see you later on when we do the rest of Libra week, and then inevitably do Scorpio, so on and so forth. And of course, that playlist down below if you guys have any of those other placements that you're interested in checking out. So thank you guys so much for being here. I appreciate you guys, and I'll talk to you guys soon. Bye.